不肯说
ICRT FM 100, welcome back to Sweet Talk. And I'm so happy I got to play that song. Normally, I only get to play that song on my jazz radio show. But today, I wanted to kick off with 我要你的爱 because our special guest requested this tune. Let's welcome Lutz Güllner. He's a seasoned diplomat and the head of the European Economic and Trade Office here in Taiwan. And today, we're going to be digging in a bit about his career, a bit about what EU global partnerships are, how the EU and Taiwan are connecting in more ways than you think. Welcome, Representative Lutz Güllner. How are you doing?
Thank you so much, Caitlin. It's great to be on the show. I'm super excited. I heard so much about this show, and when the invitation came, I said I have to go. And thank you for playing this super song. It's actually, my Chinese is not very good, but it's the only song where I can actually sing the refrain, you know, so that's why I love it also.
Absolutely. You got great taste in music. In fact, you've requested a couple songs that will play throughout the day, and I heard that you have also met a lot of musicians throughout your career, so who knows, maybe we'll have a couple extra requests come on in from there and now. And for anyone else that's tuning in, if you've got any EU artists that you want to request today, I think today is going to be a great day to play some EU artists that you request. But let's kick off this interview by introducing yourself. Could you let us know what brought you to Taiwan and what exactly your role is?
Yeah, that's always, you could make a very long story out of that. But let me start explaining whom I'm representing here, what I'm doing here. The European Union is a club of 27 member states, you know, countries in Europe, like France, like Germany, big ones, but also very small ones, you know, like Malta or Estonia, you know, these are small countries. And they all decided over the last 60 years, 70 years to actually work together, to build something together, to actually give up some of their sovereignty and to say, you know, stronger, we are together, we are stronger. And that is still the main idea of the European Union. That does not mean that France or Germany or anybody needed to give up their sovereignty or their nationality or their culture, but really to pool kind of our strengths. And that is what the European Union is all about. And this European Union, which has very, very specific competences, is allowed, you know, to negotiate trade agreements, for example, or in many, many other areas, has representations all over the world. We actually have more than 140, so which is one of the biggest networks of diplomatic representations. And I have the honor and the pleasure also to be the representative of this organization here in Taipei. So, and I'm super, super happy and excited about this. Other than that, I'm German by my passport and by birth, but actually also pretty European. I studied in France, where I met my wife also, who comes from the Netherlands. Our kids were born in Belgium. You know, you see it's already a lot of European connections and kind of all these linkages. And super happy to be here.
Wow, what a fantastic introduction of the EU and the alliance that you represent. I'm curious, I mean, you said you were born in Germany. What led you to join the European diplomatic service? Was there a fate encountering, or had you previously represented Germany before?
No, I've never been a German diplomat or never worked for Germany as such. But it's also no drama to do so, of course. But I was always interested in this European project, you know. Sometimes it's even for us Europeans, it's a little bit abstract because it's a lot of politics and people think this is a very complicated structure somewhere in Brussels. I don't understand it really. It's true. It's very, very complex because it's not an easy construction. But then again, if you are a European, if you travel a lot and if you have the links that I just explained, you know, this makes so much sense, you know. It's so obvious. And the great thing about the EU is also, you can not only travel, it's not only for tourism, it's actually for life, So if you decide to open a business in Spain or to study in Italy or to or to retire in Greece, you can do this. And so it's a great project. It's really a unique one. And what many, many people do not understand is it's so unique that you cannot compare it with an international organization. This is not like the WTO or even ASEAN or something, where people kind of work together. No, they've given up some of their sovereignty. Some things are being decided in Brussels. Anyway, for me, this was always a very fascinating project and idea. And it's quite complicated to get into this system, but at the time when I joined, I was really, really excited also to be in this and bring forward, this European project and integration, kind of, even if my contribution is obviously only a small one, but I hope I can do this little thing.
Oh, I'm sure your contributions are many and huge. Well, now you've made your journey all the way here to Taiwan, representing the EU. Tell us a bit more about the European Economic and Trade Office, EETO for short, and how does it connect your project that you represent, the EU, to Taiwan?
Yeah, I mean, this is basically exactly what I spoke about. Everything that the EU is actually coordinating, in charge of, in economics and many, many other policies, environment, energy, etc. This is also how we want to connect with the world, how we want to work with our partners around the globe, either in exchanging information or in working together on projects or teaming up on specific policies. And this is the whole purpose of the EETO. We have a very long title, the European Economic and Trade Office. It is de facto the office of the European Union, and this is also how we see it. So I mentioned already a couple of these areas that are super important in our work on a daily basis. Of course, it's economics. It's in our title. We want to create opportunities for our business people. We want to make investment more attractive. We want to show how it works. We want to help also our business partners on both sides, and to promote these links, because they are super important. By the way, little fun fact: the EU is actually the biggest investor in Taiwan, and actually we, as our 27 member states, have invested more in Taiwan than United States and Japan combined. And this is just a fact, which illustrates, how important this relationship is for us. But economics is not everything. We are really also, and that is a bit part of also my agenda, to promote cooperation in other fields, related areas, sustainability, energy, technology. But even going a little bit further, there is a lot of discussion at the moment in Taiwan about how to strengthen your societal resilience, against all sorts of disasters. This is something that is very important for the Europeans as well. We are learning from Taiwan in this field, and we can also work together on these experiences. One of the things I guess we also talk about was my previous job when I worked on an issue which is usually labeled as disinformation, and how do we deal with this? We can really build kind of joint approaches on this one. And that is what the EETO is doing here.
Wow, it seems like you got a busy job here in Taiwan. I was blown away hearing that the EU is the biggest investor here in Taiwan. I did not expect that. But you know what? I'm excited to learn more about what the EU is doing here in Taiwan. And we'll be right back after a little break. I thought I'd kick it off with one of my song requests. I picked Ace of Base. I believe they're part of the EU. They're from an EU nation, Sweden,
yes,
right?
It's Sweden. It's actually one of my, how do you call that? Guilty pleasures.
Really?
You never admit that you like it, but actually I like it.
So
it's okay. Thank you for the choice.
I will say I like it in honor of playing Ace of Base here on air. This is All That She Wants, playing here on FM 100. And stay tuned. We have more of Representative Lutz Güllner from the EETO joining us shortly after this little break. excellent music choice, Representative.
Thank you.
That was one of your song requests. And why did you decide to request this song today here on Sweet Talk?
Oh, this is a song really of when I was young. Yes, I was younger. It was one of the songs that had a fantastic music video. And in our time, MTV just came out, in 83, I think. And this was one of the first clips playing. And they had this very, very cool avant-garde mix of comic style with real kind of footage, and wow, we felt so modern at that time. Anyway, and it's cool music, so thank you for playing that.
Absolutely. That song is revolutionary in music history, and that music video is epic. So it's not just an older person thing, it's an everybody person thing. Go and check out Take On Me music video. And are they actually an EU group as well?
They are Norwegian, so they're
not in the EU?
No.
Oh,
but they should be there, actually.
I did not realize they should be in the EU. Well, it's good that you're here today so you can let us know about what is the EU. For people like me who are still learning more about who the EU are, what countries are a part of the EU, and also what the EU is doing here in Taiwan. Now, you mentioned a little bit earlier when you were on air about tech and trade, sustainability, which the EU is doing a lot here in Taiwan. Now, what are some exciting projects or collaborations that are happening now between Europe and Taiwan, or perhaps some projects that happened before that you're very proud of? Do you mind sharing?
Yeah, sure. I give you a good example, and that is in the energy field, for example, because energy is a real issue in all over the world. We are coming to the end of using carbon. We're all struggling. How do we build renewables? And so it's a real big issue for all of us. And the one area where actually the EU is super strong here, represented in terms of project, in terms of investing, etc., is what we call the offshore wind area. So, these big turbines and in the sea. That are very complicated to build. I've been in Taichung a couple of weeks ago to visit one of these, partly the factories and the places where they store them and how they ship them around. It's an engineering masterpiece, this stuff. And it is complicated. So first of all, you need to have the technology, you need to have the know-how, you need to have the instruments, and it's a big investment. It's nothing where you say, I ship a couple of things over to Taiwan. No, it's a serious decision by a company to get involved. And we have, luckily, a lot of European companies from Denmark, from Germany, from France, from many other places that have heavily invested here. And it's a good area because it is high technology. It is really important. It has even a political purpose, in the way to guarantee a bit of energy security. And this is only one of the many things that we are doing. Obviously, it's the companies doing this, but our job is to help the companies, to ensure that they have the right conditions, to make the links, to speak to the government, to speak to other parties, be it whatever, the local administrations, etc. So and especially if you see then kind of these wind parks operating, it's quite cool to see. But of course, we're also in other technology, in other areas, whatever, cars, machinery, and all this. But I think these wind parks is really the most exciting part of it.
I totally agree. I've driven past some of those wind parks, and they are just really just huge in size, and the fact that they're contributing to sustainability, it just makes me proud to see, wow, Taiwan's doing something about this, and we have the EU to thank to kickstart that journey here in Taiwan. Well, we've talked a lot about business and trade, but how about culture? I think a lot of people know about European culture, and perhaps that initially draws them to the EU. How do you see cultural exchanges happening here in Europe and Taiwan? And how do you see them growing over the next few years?
Yeah, culture is absolutely necessary, and also one of the best tools and vehicles, if you want, to connect people. because you don't need the language, or in most cases, in any case, it's very emotional. You can feel it, and that's why, for me, this is really a very, very important issue. Of course, this is nothing that the EETO, our small EETO, is doing alone. There are plenty of different organizations and people active. We have actually even some of the cultural institutes, from EU member states. The Goethe Institute from Germany or the Alliance Française is active here, and that is underlines also this let's say this bondage and this link that we are creating and should create. But there is much more room for, let's say, for improvement, not because it's bad, but there is air upwards. We should do much more, because actually there is one interesting thing that I experienced here, being in Taiwan, that Europe, there is a bit of an idea, some people have traveled, there's a bit of an idea about culture, but maybe a bit of food, but then very quickly it stops. And I think we need to intensify these linkages, this understanding, and vice versa. Same thing. A lot of listeners will be shocked if I say that, if you speak about Taiwan in the EU and many European countries, some people would have even a problem in finding on the map exactly, which is sad for the really fantastic beauty and history and importance of this island, but it is still the case. So it's a big plea, to everybody who's involved in the cultural field, please engage with these many fantastic European, whatever, musicians, art, culture institutions, that are out there. I know there's a very, very strong link between Taiwan and the United States, which is good, but it's also important, to focus a little bit on what the Europeans have to offer, and vice versa,
Definitely. Well, as a musician myself, I can really see the EU and countries in the EU trying their best to engage with musicians. And that's why, as I was mentioning to you before, I have a great opportunity to go to Szczecin. Is that the way to say it? In Poland. Yeah. And I think that's so cool. I can go there and I can take in some of that culture, meet some of the local musicians, and hopefully through that, in my future works or here on ICRT, share more about the European culture. So you're right. There is ways to continue, but I can see the EU is doing a really, really, really great job with culture. And here on ICRT, we can play more European music. So I have a European song that I would love to play next. This one is actually one of the first French songs I ever listened to that wasn't Edith Piaf. I mean, I love Edith Piaf. She's an icon. For those who don't know who she is, La Vie en Rose is her song. She's the original artist. But this artist is a rapper called Stromae. Have you heard of him?
Oh, yes. He's Belgian, actually.
He's Belgian.
Yes.
See, there you go. Learning more every day. Well, this is the first French language song, but I guess the first Belgian song I ever listened to too. So we're going to play this one. It's called Alors on danse, which means so we dance. I love the message. I guess dance is also a great way to explore European culture. Enjoy this one and we'll be right back here on ICRT. ICRT FM 100 Mamma Mia by ABBA. One of our special guests, Lutz Güllner's special request. Did I just say that again? Why did you pick this song?
That's another one which is really a grand classic, and actually a lot of people think ABBA is an American band.
How dare they?
How dare they? It
I
cannot
know.
be more Swedish than anything else. This fantastic four people. So for me, this is kind of, if you want to have real kind of European classics, this is in the must-have list.
Is this a song that if you played anywhere in the EU, everyone would just get up and start singing?
Absolutely. Everybody knows this. I mean, this is actually worldwide, so it's nothing specific to Europe or the EU. But it is, as I said, some people do not realize that actually it's a Swedish kind of band, and it's cool.
You know what's crazy? Like, a lot of the greatest hits in pop music, even to this very day, are written by Swedish people. Like Max Martin, the most number ones in the world. He's Swedish.
True.
Yeah.
And you outed yourself already with the Ace of Base.
I know.
I'm sure there are a few others as well that we can come. Roxette is
Yes,
another grand
definitely.
classic. Europe, by the way.
Europe the band.
Sorry, not European Union. We speak a lot about Europe. I think this is a discovery for maybe some of the listeners. So we get into a bit fringe issues here, but this is the stuff that I listen to. So I sound as if I'm 92, but I'm not yet.
It's okay. I also listen to Europe the band and ABBA and Ace of Base and Roxette, so don't worry. But let's head back to the world of diplomacy today, even though it's always so much fun to chat about music. You've worked in diplomacy all around the world. And just before we came on air, you were sharing about how you picked up so many languages living in different places. So how does living and working in Taiwan compare to some of the other experiences in cities you've lived in?
Yeah, I mean, if you are working in the EU or for the EU, is already a different country, for you, because I'm German, so the place where I work and live is Belgium. So for us, this is already a little journey, even the starting point. And the languages that I talked about is something which is pretty common, for most of my colleagues or most of the people working in this field, because we need to connect so many cultures, so many different styles, so many political cultures in the EU, and it helps so much, to know a little bit about it, and that's why it's good. It's a tool, as well. But it's also pretty much fun, if you go to a cinema and you see a French movie and you don't need subtitles, and you see a Dutch movie and you don't need subtitles because you get the subtleties as well. It's true for every language, of course, and many of the bilinguals who are listening today, Chinese, English, etc., same thing, of course. And I really regret that my Mandarin is not better. But anyway, maybe one day I'm getting to that. No, but the experience in Taipei is not to fall into any cliche, but Taipei is a totally underrated city as far as European perceptions are concerned. I think there's a very vague understanding of how Taipei looks like. I think a lot of people have heard about the 101, etc. But I mean, I need to really praise kind of a lot of the sphere of it, of the ambience, in the city. And I can speak also for my family, my wife, my 15-year-old son who loves Taipei. And actually, because you have so many different feelings in kind of the way it is you perceive it. If you go to Zhongshan, for example, it's a bit more artsy, and then Xinyi then you get into the glamour and glitter kind of Singapore style. And I actually live up in Yangmingshan, so again, very different. Many people have not even been up there. So good. Really very, very good place. And maybe one thing that people in Taiwan and in Taipei should really, really cherish is the fantastic public transport. The MRT, and I hope I'm not just speaking here about smaller things, but the MRT is great. And actually, I also in my function here, I take the MRT very, very often because I think super convenient. It's very nice. You connect a little bit to people, maybe not because you're speaking, but just watching people is fantastic. And these are the little pleasures of the day,
Oh, you couldn't have said it better. The MRT is world class here. Well, I'm curious, for any Europeans who are interested in visiting Taiwan, or perhaps are just coming through, what would you say that makes Taiwan a must-visit destination for Europeans? Or what do you think Europeans will love about Taiwan if they ever came here?
It's very subjective, of course, and whoever you ask, I think everybody will mention food. That is for sure, From night market to Michelin star restaurants. I mean, you actually need to ask me what I do not like in Taiwanese cuisine or whatever is on offer here. I mean, it's nearly everything. Not everything, but nearly everything. And it is fantastic. But I think what Europeans are learning is that Taiwan is a fantastic travel destination in terms of its natural beauties. The mountains that I'm very much drawn to because I come from the mountains in Munich, or close to it in any case. The seaside, it's just stunning landscapes, really fantastic. I just said I live in Yangmingshan. Last night we just with my wife, we went up to the park again to go to Qingqiangang, to the Buffalo Meadows, just to watch the sunset because it's so beautiful. It's absolutely stunning. But so culture also, but you need to understand, of course, Chinese roots and indigenous cultures, etc. Takes a little bit more for me to really get the feeling for this. But then again, you have this great offer also on international culture. I'm a great fan of classical music, for example, and the offer also here in Taipei is fantastic. I think I make a lot of commercials, advertising for come to Taipei, come to Taiwan, come to visit us. It's not only to visit me, it's also to visit this beautiful island with its fantastic people. Really, it's a pleasure being here.
I think you couldn't have said it any better. I mean, Taiwan has so much to offer, and I think for me the coolest part is it's just so accessible. Like, you were just saying you went to go see the buffaloes in the Yangming Park last night, right? I mean, that's literally part of Taipei City. You don't have to travel like 5 hours. I mean, as someone from Australia, if you want to go anywhere, you're in the car for like minimum 3 hours. So to me, it's just everything all right there, all accessible. You've got it. Well, it's time we play another track, and my European pick is from Germany. This one is the Scorpions. I've decided to pick Wind of Change. What do you think?
It is an epic song.
It is epic.
The Scorpions are actually from Hanover in Germany. And this song was very, very high on the charts in 1989 when the Berlin Wall fell. And it is really the hymn of a feeling, of a moment in history that changed a lot in Europe. And that was this hope of, after these many, many years of the Iron Curtain, of the Cold War, that we can actually live together on this continent. Unfortunately, the feeling of that time has crumbled and has shown itself in a very, very different light. We have a war now in Europe. Russia is not a partner, is actually an adversary that has started a war in Europe. But anyway, the song still stands for hope, and that's why it's a good one.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better. Wind of Change, the Scorpions, playing right now here on FM 100. Gosh, you almost took away my job right there, explaining the history behind the track. Anyway, let's sit back and enjoy this track. We have Representative Lutz Güllner with us just past the 3 p.m. news, so stick around to hear more stories. ICRT FM 100. Welcome back to Sweet Talk here on ICRT, where today we have a special guest, the head of the European Trade Office. Did I get that correct? The EETO, as I'm learning. European Economic and Trade Office. We have Representative Lutz Güllner. And, well, I just played a hidden EU track there. And I say hidden EU because a lot of people, they know that song. They know Hozier. He's world star. But they don't know he's from Ireland. And Ireland is, as I just learned, one of the few remaining English-speaking EU countries. Fun fact there, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, before we let you go today, Representative, I wanted to know, how Taiwanese people who are interested in the EU or Europe, whether through travel or education or career, what's your top piece of advice to get involved with the EU and explore opportunities there?
I would think 3 areas. The first one is obviously tourism and travel. Europe is a huge continent. Well, it's not as big as many others, but it has so much variety. If you go to Portugal, if you go to Italy, if you go to Sweden, if you go to Germany, if you go to Latvia, you get very different landscapes, experiences, cultures, and just traveling in Europe and through the EU member states is such an experience. I hope a good one for everybody, but this variety is pretty cool. The second thing is something that we do. We're just stumbling over our name, the European Economic and Trade Office. We work with a lot of companies. There are great opportunities out there to team up, and some of the big companies have done this. TSMC invested a lot, but this is not only about the big guns. This is also about startups that are looking for partners and want to team up with a creative small company in Italy or something like that. This is basically, we have a lot of possibilities to help for this. Our member states, the 16 that are represented here, have dedicated offices for this. They can help you identify these partners. And the third area that I think is pretty important is education, studies. European universities are very, very good. You get a huge variety of offers in studies, top level, and the best is it's nearly free in the European Union, because that is always what our idea was about, that education needs to be accessible, high level and high quality education. So there are great opportunities also for young or not so young people from Taiwan.
Wow, it just blows me away. Just think about, university and education is almost nearly free, and it's accessible to almost anyone. So, of course, I highly encourage anyone who's looking to study abroad to go check out the EU. But I think the best way to get to the EU is just to start with a trip, right? Just go, So I wanted to know, is there a underrated city or region or perhaps a country in Europe that people from Taiwan should go visit, or maybe they haven't heard about? What's your pick?
That's the trick question, because if anybody of my colleagues is now listening, of the 16 member states that are here, they will say, whoa, you said Germany, or you said France, and why didn't you say Denmark, or why didn't you say something else? Of course, all of them are beautiful and everywhere you should go. But let me be very subjective. I make a bit of a plea for my own hometown, Munich, in the south of Germany. It's actually a beautiful, beautiful place. Has a lot of history. It's very close to the famous castles of King Louis that many people have heard already. It's for culture, it's great. Even if you like classical music, Richard Wagner and many others kind of were in that city. It's great popular culture as well. We drink this beer out of very, very big steins. A liter is also an experience. The Oktoberfest, the beer festival in end of September. So this is definitely one. And let me be fair also to my wife, who's Dutch. There is a beautiful city. I mean, there are plenty of them. Amsterdam, everybody knows, but Utrecht is very close to it. Has a lot of history. Is a great place also for young people to hang out. And if you want a third one to make it complete, in Belgium, where I lived the past 20 years, everybody has heard about Brussels, but very close to Brussels, there's Antwerp, another great place to visit. Plenty of cool places, actually. It's a very young city, has a great vibe as well, is very close to Bruges, that many people know, again, the Venice of the North. So these would be 3 examples, but to really make it complete, you would have me at least another hour on this program. And I want to spare you that, and also the listeners.
We'll have to have you come back another day to share about every single hidden gem in the EU. But before we wrap up, I want to ask, if you weren't a diplomat, what do you think you'd be doing today?
I think I would be a journalist. That was, when I was 15, 16, was actually my dream, so to say, to become a journalist, because I like discovering, I like getting a little bit to the ground of things, a little bit deeper into the stories, etc. And actually, I always kept a bit this interest also for getting into the stories, and even in my work now, also understanding that a lot of how people perceive the world is actually reflected by what they are reading and how they get their information, which is also part of the beauty, but also part of many problems that we are seeing now. Think about the problem of disinformation, etc., that is very often used. Anyway, journalists have a very, very tough job if they play by the rules and if they have an ethical feeling about transporting the truth as well. And it has become a very rough ride for a lot of journalists because things are changing. People are used to get their news for free, from some obscure sources or very, very heavily sponsored from states or big conglomerates. And I think I would be now an independent journalist, really, maybe trying to make ends meet, but at least with a good cause in my mind. Anyway, this was also a big praise to all these fantastic journalists that are out there and doing their very, very important work.
As are you doing very, very important work, of course. Well, thank you so much for joining us here today. Before you walk away, what's one thing you hope people today listening to our interview remember about EU's connection to Taiwan and why it matters?
Some of my colleagues say, if Taiwan wasn't so far away, if it was an island in the Mediterranean, it would be part of the European Union already. So I really want to strengthen this. We are very close in our values, in what keeps a society going, the value of democracy, what it means, rule of law. This is not just kind of empty lip sermons, on a Sunday. I think this is what this island went through, and the Europeans have a lot of admiration for that. And I think if I and my colleagues and if we can build a little bit stronger this understanding, this awareness on both sides, also that the EU is not just a technocratic construction, but that there are people and ideas and creativity and opportunities behind, that would be the most important for me. And I would be happy to come back anytime, Caitlin. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us here on Sweet Talk. It's been such a pleasure learning more about what you do, the EU, also the European Economic and Trade Office. I do hope you can come back and share more music because you've got excellent music taste.
Thank you.
I'm going to wrap up with a slightly interesting European track. This one's called Blue by Eiffel 65. Remember this one? This track's making a comeback recently, so that's why I thought I'd end on this one. Enjoy, and I hope to see you again soon.
Thank you so much.
Stay tuned to ICRT. More music and tracks all the way till 4.